Well, hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about garden prep and planning. It is obviously dead of winter. I don't know if you can tell just from the light coming in, but it is full snow out there. So we're not going to be doing anything outside, but we are going to talk about what my plans are for 2025. And hopefully I can give you some ideas or tips that you can use in your garden if you're trying to do urban gardening or urban homesteading. You may also be wondering why I'm in this weird unfinished open space filming, and that's because this is a part of an upcoming video where I am redoing this nook. It used to be an old built-in breakfast nook, and I'm turning it into my new office space, probably not permanent office space, and then starting the process of turning it into a pantry long run. So make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss that video. All right, we're gonna grab a little squat on the floor here because I have a lot of seeds to go through. We'll start here and then eventually I will take you over to my computer and start showing you some of the design stuff. That is all seeds. So the fun part about this is a good portion of these seeds I did not pay for. They have been thrown out. Maybe a shop was selling them and the seeds were going to expire or something. So I did manage to get a lot of these for free. There's also quite a few in here that I either got from my plants that I've grown in the last couple of years, or I have some wildflower seeds because I want to start growing some native flowers in gardens as well around here. Now I will preface with saying if you're going to go gather wild seeds that are native to the area, try to learn a little bit about the flowers so that you're not getting weeds. And the only difference, honestly, between the weeds and the not weeds is just that weeds are generally invasive. So it kind of comes down to whether or not you want them. But considering your neighbors also, for example, if you were going to plant a bunch of dandelion, obviously everybody's going to have dandelion. So being aware of that. So first off, what I do when I'm planning my planting season is I think about what I would eat. Oh, I left my notebook all the way over there. Okay. Back up. Okay. So, like I said, I start with thinking about what I actually eat, because obviously I don't really want to spend time, energy, and the space on something that I'm not going to eat or enjoy. So I will keep an initial list of the different things that I like and that I want to try growing. And usually this is just, I start off with kind of a generic list of things like carrots or cucumbers, or squash, winter squash, that sort of thing. Now, I buy multiple types of those seeds, so I usually grow multiple types, but I at least get this kind of basic idea. So here's 2025. So 2025 is going to be a lot of stuff that I have grown before. I would say probably at least 80-85% of this list I have already grown before. The things that are new to the list, technically I have grown curry squash, but it didn't do anything. So we're going to try that again. I've already got sunchokes growing in the yard. I do think I need to move those though. I just don't think they're getting enough sun. I did not grow any peas yet. I have grown beans though. I grew multiple types of beans. So I would like to try and add in peas. Also, heirloom corn is something that's new. So I grew sweet corns, 3 different types this last year. And I think only 2 of them actually grew into anything. I don't think I watered them enough, so they didn't get very big. They didn't, the seed pods didn't fill out very much, the kernels. And then some of them got bugs. I only had very small amounts of corn from it, and it tasted great, but it was a lot of effort. And honestly, I don't eat sweet corn that often. I think I might still have some seeds. If I do, I'll probably try growing some of it again, but I'm not going to buy sweet corn seeds because I could just buy sweet corn at the farmer's market or at the store the like 5 times a year, if that I eat sweet corn, and that's fine. I'm excited about heirloom corn though, because it's used for flours and like masa and things like that. So I'm excited to experiment there. I don't know a whole lot. It's going to be a lot more research, but I do have some seeds I'll go into on that one. So after you have your list of veggies or fruits or both that you want to grow, then you can start looking for what is available in your area. And you want to pay attention, obviously, to your zone, because everybody has a different zone. I'm in zone 6A. Something else that I have to keep in mind with that is I'm in Colorado. We are in Denver. We're a mile high, so we're a lot closer to the sun. So anything that does not like too much sun or wants a part shade, part sun balance, I have to make sure that I plant in the appropriate spot or accommodate for that. Now, as far as getting seeds, keep in mind that growing from seed can be a challenge in its own. There's certain seeds that I've had luck growing from seed, and then there's certain things that I ended up having to buy from a plant nursery because I just could not get my seedlings to survive. One of those being like onions and leeks. I haven't had any luck doing those from seed yet, so we'll see. I'm going to give it another go because I have the seeds. But moving forward in the future, if I continue to not have luck, I will probably just continue to buy those from the plant nursery. If you can get seeds from other sources for a low cost or for free, that is definitely the way to go. And honestly, I think the expired seeds, it's not that none of them will grow, it's just that the germination rate will lower. So you can still get expired seeds and plant them and have great luck. So my organization system is all of the different seed packets in sections divided by little cardboard section headers here, so we can see like where all of my greens are. And up here is herbs. Over here we've got a bunch of the alliums. There we go. Onions, green onions, shallots, that sort of thing. That has been the easiest way for me to sort, but it depends what you're growing, what you've got, how you want to sort it. Some people will use little photo books with the pockets, like the collector's card pockets or the photo pockets. Whatever works for you. I also, when I am collecting my own seeds, whether it's from plants that I'm growing or from somewhere out into the world or a neighbor or something, I have a bunch of these just little basic brown envelopes you can see here. These are great because you can put a bunch of seeds in them and then you can write on it so you know exactly what it is, what year you got it, that sort of thing. And these are not too expensive. You can buy them pretty much anywhere. You can buy them online. You could use other envelopes as well. I have some old seeds that are from back before I really tried gardening. And I don't know that these seeds are viable anymore because they're like a decade old at least. But I just stuck them in regular envelopes and then taped them up. Another inexpensive way to get certain seeds is considering what you can get from the store. So these are pinto beans. They were just the least expensive option. I bought them in a big bag. I have grown some of these. Not successfully. I think I needed to plant them in a different spot, but they did at least grow into small plants. I think that bag was like maybe $5 overall for a ton more beans than that, so I'm set for a long time on pinto beans. Another one that I want to work on more is poppy seeds. Again, you can buy poppy seeds for hardly anything. The trick with this type of thing is you don't really know what kind of flower you're going to get. So if you're going for something very specific, then this is not the best option. But if you just enjoy poppy flowers and you want to see what comes up, this works great. I've also done this with sunflower seeds. I bought a huge bag of sunflower seeds for birds. And I have used the sunflower seeds to feed the birds and the squirrels. But I also found that sunflowers were randomly coming up in my yard. So all of those seeds are viable, and I will plant them on purpose in certain areas that I want to have sunflowers. The bag that I got seems to be a mix. So most of them are just kind of standard 6 to 8 foot sunflowers that you would expect. The flower heads are not huge, they're a little bit smaller. But there were even a few seeds in that bag that are what are called teddy bear sunflowers. So they just have a ton of petals. They look kind of fuzzy almost. and that was really cool to see. Other things you can collect are seeds from trees. So I don't know if these will end up being viable or not, but they're from a maple tree that I thought was really, really pretty when I saw it in the fall, so I wanted to give these a shot as well. Now, as far as new seeds that I'm excited about, which will lead me to where do I get seeds, I have ordered a few things. So I order predominantly from Johnny's Seeds, Johnny's Selected Seeds. Their stuff has been really good. I appreciate that the packages are resealable, so you don't have to worry about trying to tape them. The price seems to be very reasonable, and they really focus on producing plants that are disease resistant, fungus resistant, all that, mildew resistant, and they're just yummy. I really like them. So I also got some flowers this time around, so I'm excited to see how those do. I haven't bought any flower seeds from them. So these are where I've got the maize seeds. That's the heirloom corn that's for flowers and things. I got, I believe it's a blue and a green. I don't remember, so we'll have to find out. But I'm pretty sure it's a dark blue and a dark green, so that would be really fun. I got a few different squashes from them as well, both winter and summer. Some zucchinis that are interesting looking and have less spines. That's one of the things I'm not a huge fan of with zucchinis and summer squashes, is that they're, well, any squash really, they're kind of spiny, so I'm excited to have some that hopefully have slightly less spines. I got some cantaloupe, I got beets, kohlrabi. I grew, if you saw a video that I did, a short earlier this year, I accidentally grew kohlrabi. I must have had seeds and put it in the bed and forgotten. So it took me a while to figure out what it was that was growing, but it was really good. Like, the kohlrabi you get in the store is nothing like the kohlrabi that you just grow. Wildly different. I got some carrots. Those are also extraordinarily different from what you get in the store. The carrots that I grew this past year were so flavorful, absolutely delicious. And then when I ran out of them and I had to go back to normal carrots from the store, it was like switching to cardboard. They were so bland comparatively. It was very sad. I got cumin. I'm excited to do that. I use cumin in a lot of my cooking, so if I can grow it, great. And then I've got a couple of snapdragon seeds, some pleurisy root, some celosia. So the pleurisy root is a Asclepias. Asclepias. The proper name is Asclepias tuberosa. Probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but so I'm excited to see what happens with these. Oh, I got 3 snapdragons. And then this big package is mammoth red clover. So I don't like mowing my lawn. Not a fan. And when I moved in, that's all I had. It was not even so much lawn. It was, I had a lot of dirt that turned into weeds. And there was nothing. There's no patio, there were no garden beds, like nobody did anything at this house at any point. So I have carefully kind of designed what I wanted to do with the yard and how I wanted to divide it up into sections, making it so that I have the least amount of mowing possible. Now, part of that also, I will add grass seed whenever I'm ready to sell the house, because I know not everybody is like me. Lots of people like lawns, but at least for while I'm here, I want to work on the soil health because it's not great. And a good way to do that is to use cover crops that I can just chop and drop and let it help break up the soil and feed it. I already have a clover patch too that I've been cultivating there was clover here, and it has grown a significant amount in the last couple of years. I do know though it doesn't seem to like sun very much. Again, we're closer to the sun. It's pretty brutal. So I'm sure this will also be the same, and I'll just have to be aware of that. Welcome to my basement and also my seed and plant storage. So you can see behind me here, there's a bunch of plants. They look kind of dead. Some of them might be. So these are my tomatoes and peppers that I grew this past season. I'm trying to hibernate them over the winter, plant them again and see if they come back.
I'm not sure how many of these will come back. It's kind of tough to water them. The dirt's not doing great because it's partially soil from outside. So it's not holding moisture super well. You can see like this portion obviously is dead. So I'm hoping that even the ones that look kind of hollowed out, I'm hoping the roots are okay. This guy is thriving. He's just living his best life in the winter. So I have all of those. And then over here on this shelf, I've got, I think there's 5 on this shelf and then 3 on this shelf. So we'll see what happens. I also have starter potatoes. I have red potatoes that I bought from the store. Did not eat them in time and they started sprouting. So I will plant those to try to grow them as well. And then one of my favorite peppers is an Italian frying pepper. It's kind of sweeter. It's just really good to add into stuff as an additional flavor. It takes forever to grow. So I will probably start that inside soon. Last year was just weird and none of them survived. So none of those plants down there are Italian frying peppers, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit of my planning for my yard. This has changed since last year. So I also want to say, give yourself the flexibility of making changes and changing your mind on stuff, right? Like there was a lot of things that I thought made sense and I was super excited about. And then the more I've looked at my yard and kind of what I'm doing with it, then I adjusted some things, or there was some stuff that I wanted to do that is just, it's going to be really hard to do. And so I looked at, okay, well, how do I maybe like dial it back a little bit and make it more achievable? So I'm going to show you what I have. So looking at this, you can see I've got everything kind of laid out and color coded. I highly recommend, the easiest way to do planning is just to go take a screenshot on Google Maps overhead of your home. Then you don't have to worry about like trying to get the proportion quite right. And obviously this is not completely accurate because I did not sit here and measure all of these little boxes, but it at least gives me a pretty good idea of what is where and how much space I have. So everything in green is stuff that has already been done. Everything in blue is what I would like to do. And then the orange is path and patio. The patio does not exist yet. The path partially exists / hilariously enough, I discovered I had a path in my backyard that I did not know about because it did not get maintained. And it's a cement one. It's like broken cement. It's not classy. But it did not get maintained to the point which it is covered by like 2 to 3 inches of dirt and grass. So it's been missing for how many ever years now, and I'm digging it up. I'd like to finish digging that up and patching in pieces where I go. I also may just slowly start to replace it because I do like the look of, I've been buying pavers, which are really inexpensive. So it's not like it's a high budget project here, especially because I'm not doing it superficially where I put, like sand down first and layers and stuff like that. It is pavers. I think there is some sand to balance it and help with water flow and everything, but it's pretty much sand that I'm not tamping down, the pavers, some dirt over the sand in between the gaps because then I'm putting Irish moss in between them, which helps keep the majority of weeds from growing between those pavers. I like the clean look of the pavers. They just look a little bit better than the broken up cement, so I'll probably slowly replace that and then continue to spread that Irish moss. The purple parts are areas that I kind of know that approximately I want those to be garden. I just don't really know what I'm doing there yet. So it's a placeholder, but it's not exactly what I want. And then the 2 lilac bushes in the kind of pale color there, just they're there. They exist. So I need to be aware that they're there. I can probably get rid of this pipe. This was originally to mark water irrigation, which has since moved. I'm not sure what the black dot was, so we're just going to get rid of that. So that opens that up quite a bit. Now, the flowers and bushes, I will say up front, is pretty non-existent. I'm still working on that. Same with over here. Those, I was debating putting them back to green. I've kind of started it. It's just, there's not a lot. Or yeah, they were green, and then I switched them to blue. That's why. So looking a little bit more closely at these different spots here. So the front yard, I have predominantly grown squashes up there. The first year that I grew squashes, they did pretty well, actually. I had a bunch of pumpkins. It was good. Last year, grew hardly anything. I don't know what the deal was. So I am focusing on continuing to improve the soil health, adding nutrients, trying to loosen up the soil because there's a lot of clay here. So I think I've seen certain plants are having a hard time growing just because it's the soil's compacted and it's clay. It's hard to grow here. So I'm trying to add more stuff. I'm using gypsum as one of the things that I will be doing a lot more this year, is scattering that around because that breaks up breaks up the clay. And I will continue to grow squashes in the front yard. Right now, it was just weeds when I moved in, and I don't want to mow it, so it's like a great space for me to put the squash. I will also be putting in more flowers and bushes along this top part here, as well as a short fence. I haven't really had too much issue of people coming into my yard or anything like that, aside from people hopping the fence to steal the tree, and then unfortunately my wheelbarrow got left out, and so somebody hopped the fence and stole that. Joke's on them, because it was a super inexpensive one and it was already kind of coming loose and stuff, so I don't know how much more they're gonna get out of it. But otherwise, as far as front yard, I haven't noticed too much trouble with people coming into my yard, aside from dogs. There is a neighbor who walks their dog off leash. I think it's off leash. I don't know. But their dog does come like at least partially into my yard. So maybe they're on leash and they're just kind of stepping there. But it goes to the bathroom and just she doesn't care unless she notices that I'm looking. And then she's all like, ooh. So I'd like to kind of restrict that a little bit. And I'm going to use kind of slight hills and mounds with the flowers and then the fence to create that barrier. You know, if a dog pees on some of the flowers that are on that outer part or a bush or something, you know, it's not great because it can damage the plants. But I don't want the dog peeing on my food crops. Now, last year, where the sunchokes and the melons are, I grew corn and some more squash, some some melon, and some okra. Nothing grew very well over here. And I think a huge part of that is the watering factor. It gets hot and dry out there. I don't think the soil is great. And then I just was having kind of a hard time keeping up with all of the watering, because currently all of the watering that I do for both the front and the back is manual. I go out with the hose and the spray head, and that's how I water things. This upcoming year, I really want to put some drip irrigation, at least in the backyard, because I will still have to manually water the front, but at least that takes over half the property off of my responsibility to water. And I think it'll be a lot more manageable to just break it up that way. Eventually, I'd like to put drip irrigation in the front too, but the backyard seems like that's the majority of my crops. And the variety and everything, so I think that's the most important. I put the sunchokes up here just because they did not do a whole lot back here. They did grow pretty tall. They were probably anywhere from 2 to like 4 feet tall, but they are also supposed to produce flowers that look kind of like little tiny like sunflowers or daisies, and they did not do that. So I don't think they grew as well as they should have. I don't think they got as much sun as they like to, because they love sun. So I'm going to try putting them up front and see if they do better up there. I think that could change. I'm not married to that idea, but that's my thought. The little green dots up here are fruit trees that I have planted. I think this one actually is slightly farther that way. So that's marking those fruit trees. Those are good to go. Squash, I'm going to keep that pretty much the same and just continue to nurture that area in the ground. Going back to the backyard, so I have, again, the green dots are like trees or bushes or things like that. These 2 green dots here are rhubarb, So those get pretty big. I also want to try adding an artichoke. I had an artichoke my first year, and it produced like 2 or 3 little artichokes, which were super tasty, but I did not like cover it in time in the winter because I didn't realize you had to until a little too late, so it died. So I want to try that again. Being in kind of this in-between zone where we do have a lot of hot weather, but we also have some cold weather, it's tough because there's certain things you can grow, but you have to make sure that during the winter you take care of it and cover it. So I have done that with my fig tree, which is over currently in this veg bed area. Right now it's got a tomato cage around it with some other mesh, and then it's got like mulch and leaves piled onto it to try to keep it warm. And I did that last year and it worked fine. The fig came back. The fig also is not growing super well, so I don't know if I need to move it or just try to give it some better dirt to work with or something. It does not like being compacted, so I think the clay is also probably part of the problem. So I think I may have to dig that up. And if I keep it in the same place, I'll have to at least add more compost and looser material to that spot. Right now, the sunchokes are over on the far side of my garage. I will probably put something else there, especially during the heat of the summer. That area is actually a part sun, part shade area. So it might be good for herbs, certain herbs, depending on what it is, or I might try to grow some greens over on that side to see if I can extend their life a little bit longer into the summer. So that's kind of the goal there, but those will have to be moved. And then over here where it says veg bed, well, two veg beds. First, this blue one here, and actually this should be blue as well. This blue one here does not exist yet. I want it to be a slightly elevated bed because the dirt is not good. First off, the soil's crap over there. It's really hard. But also it's right on my neighbor's fence, and my neighbor's yard is predominantly paved, and they also have a lot of like tools and machinery and whatnot. And so I don't really want to pull up if there's possibly any like chemicals or oil or just any pollutants that might be in the dirt. So if I elevate it a little bit, then the plants should just pull from higher dirt. It is a goal to try to get that put in this year to give myself plenty of space, but we'll see. We'll see. Same thing for this veg bed over here. So there is currently a pine tree over here, which has not been doing great. And I thought a lot of it had to do with just heat. Unfortunately, with climate change and the increase in heat in the summers and the longer warm seasons, the pine trees in Colorado have not been doing well. A lot of them have died. And that's just kind of an unfortunate thing that we're seeing. If you drive through the mountains and you've never done so before in your life, and like anywhere in the Rocky Mountains, there's a lot less pine trees than there used to be when I was growing up. So it's sad. I did think that was probably what was happening here, and I was trying to mulch the tree and then water it in the really like hot time of the summer, but it just still hasn't been doing great. And my dad and I finally realized it has beetles because it's got all sorts of hollow bits and zigzags in the wood, which really sucks, because then what I need to do is I need to chop that tree down to try to avoid spreading beetles to any other trees. So I don't personally enjoy having pine trees in my yard anyway, so it's okay because I don't like stepping on the pine needles and everything. I'll probably replace that pine tree with some sort of fruit tree or a few fruit trees. I'll just kind of continue to extend orchard options there. Yeah, it's sad. It's a bummer, but it is what it is. So I guess I'll be chopping down a tree this year. I also need to chop down the giant tree that's up here next to my house. It's absolutely massive, so I hate to cut it down, but it is messing up my driveway and my foundation with its roots. So at some point that will have to come down, and a portion of that tree is dead as well. So with the removal of the pine tree, that will open up a lot more sun in this area. currently the pine tree does shade kind of this region, these couple of boxes and plants, and then a portion of this open space over here. So at least that will provide more sunshine for growing fruits and veggies. Something I will also want to do that is not going to happen in 2025 is I want to get chickens. One of the rules here in this area, though, is that I have to have an opaque fence, which I do not currently have. So that is something I'll be working on throughout the summer, is putting up an opaque fence around my perimeter, and then chickens will be probably a 2026, and also building the chicken coop, but getting the actual chickens will be a 2026 thing. But I think currently the space that I have for the chicken coop is going to have to be somewhere around here behind the garage. It has to be a certain number of feet away from my neighbor's property lines. So this is really the only area that I think will work to put the chicken coop. So we'll see. I'll continue to think on that. This is still relatively new thought process. Now, I have done this in stages, and I think that's a big thing to keep in mind. Is there's a lot of people who they will go out and they just build a bunch of garden boxes or beds, and it's hard to maintain, or it's really expensive too. I've seen a lot of people talk about spending a ton of money on gardening, and if you just go out and you just buy everything full price, brand new, all at one time to get that dopamine hit, yes, it's gonna be expensive. You're gonna be dropping some major cash. My goal has been to do it in stages, and to do so reusing materials if I can, finding things on sale or clearance. I have barely paid full price for any of my plants, especially the perennials. I will pay full price for certain veggies that I want to grow when I'm getting those plants. But I think I haven't paid full price for any of my trees. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees. I had purchased a 7th. Actually, I've purchased 8 trees in total. 1 died, 1 got stolen. But 6 of those have survived. They're doing great. The raspberry bush, I had originally bought, I think, 3 or 4 raspberries and blackberries. Unfortunately, only 1 survived. I think they just didn't get put out as soon as they needed to. But I did not pay full price for any of those either. I have several boxwood bushes along the front of my property. Again, unfortunately, I did buy a bunch of those. I think not quite half of them didn't make it. So over half of them made it. Part of that was on me. Part of that, you just kind of have to expect that some of your plants are going to die. I bought those, I think, basically buy one, get one. So again, did not pay full price for those. All of the flowers that I have planted in the front yard, flowers and plants, I've got sage plants coming in, various flowers. I have not paid full price for any of them. They either were free, found in the garbage, or I got them on clearance. Sometimes Home Depot will put out the plants that are starting to look kind of rough for like $2 each. So that's where a lot of those came from. I would say, as far as plants that I have paid full price for, so as I said, some veggies, and then also bulbs. I've bought a few bulbs recently, and those are in the ground in various spots of tulips. I think there's some daffodils. There's some crocus, which will be really nice in the early spring. And then there's one bulb flower that I can't remember what it's called, but it's much bigger. And should be pretty. That one, if that survives and makes it, that's going to be so cool. If it doesn't, I'm not going to hold it against myself. And then, as I said, with a lot of my seeds, I got a lot of my seeds for free. They were expired and just being given away. I've gotten some from friends, and then there's also a bunch that I've just gathered from plants that I have grown and saved them. So as you kind of get going, stuff gets cheaper. I also spent money on buying compost. However, I bought the least expensive compost I could. I didn't buy any soil. I just bought compost and then mixed it in with dirt that I've been digging up in different areas of my yard for like putting in the patio or putting in the water drainage. If I have extra dirt, I usually mix that into a bed with compost. So the soil quality is not great, but it has given me a good starting place. My first year, plants did really well. I actually had a pretty decent harvest. Last year was super weird for a lot of gardeners, so you're going to have years that are not great for reasons you can't really figure out. And I'm hoping that this upcoming year will be good. I will be adding in some compost that I've been making, so it should be much higher quality, a lot richer and more nutrient dense. So I'll be mixing that into the boxes to re-add nutrients. And then I'm also going to be doing dandelion tea, which is basically fermenting dandelion leaves to get the nutrients and pouring those into the plants. You can also use a diluted version of that, and that will also help keep some pests off of the plants. So I'm hoping that that will help with that. As far as pests go, my little note, so I actually leave a lot of there's paper wasps in the area, which they're really not aggressive. They've been pretty chill. So I've got a bunch of those. I leave those for the most part. I try to keep the population from getting too intense. So I do have pest control because I have black widows. Don't get me started on the black widows. They were here when I got here. Love that for me. But when the pest control comes out, sometimes I have them scrape off the nests that are on my house, just to keep, again, population control relatively reasonable. And then sometimes I will have them leave the nests if it's smaller, just so that we still have some, because they will eat small bugs off of my plants. And they don't bother me. I'm not allergic. This may be different for other people, but that's what I do. I also have seen a few different praying mantis egg sacs, which the first one that I ever saw, I had no idea what it was, had to look it up. Once I figured out that was a praying mantis egg sac, I left it. I've seen another one recently that I don't know if it's new or if it's from last year. Hopefully it's new. Those I also leave. Those are very beneficial, and they are one of the very few bugs that will kill and eat black widows. So I will let those chill here all the time. They're intense. You generally, after the eggs hatch, you'll only end up with one eventually because they're so territorial that they just kill each other. So just know that if you ever have those, like it's a one praying mantis kind of home. And then Japanese beetles are a big issue. So I have traps that I usually put away from a lot of my plants to try to at least mitigate that as much as possible. One thing that I have done to try to get rid of a lot of the weeds is I've put down layers of cardboard and mulch. I do think this has contributed to my bug population, but we've also kind of hit the point where I want to start pulling a lot of that back. I will add some of that to compost piles and try to break that down. Some of it already has started to break down, and then start adding in the clover and other things to fill in the space. And that's about it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video or found it helpful. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments. I can always create additional videos to answer those as best I can. It is a learning process, and a lot of this is trial and error, especially because everybody's climate is different. Everybody's soil is different. But I'm hoping that I can be at least a resource for trying to have a lush and bountiful garden, doing the urban homesteading thing, without spending an insane amount of money. One thing that I have learned, I don't know if you can see all the way out there, I've got my garden boxes and all the snow. I have used fencing panels to create all of mine because it's wood that is made to be outside, as long as it's not pine. I think these are cedar. And they've lasted pretty well. However, one thing I did is I left little gaps between the panels. And I think this was just to give myself height, and I, for some reason, wasn't that worried about the gaps. I don't know. Don't do that. Don't leave gaps. I have to put mulch around the edges of my boxes to try to keep the dirt in, because it will come out over time. So this year I may also start moving those panels down and putting them together, because it's kind of annoying that my dirt levels drop so much. They will drop anyway, just as your plants eat, but don't put gaps in your boxes. If you like this video and you want to see more of the garden stuff that I have planned, and especially as we get into warmer weather, more of me actually doing the gardening, don't forget to subscribe. I will also be doing house renovation. My house is almost 100 years old. She turns 100 next year. So if you want to see a bunch of projects there, everything I do is focused on reusing stuff if I can,
finding budget-friendly ways to make the space look elevated. And don't get me wrong, I have very bougie taste, but I don't want to drop hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars on things that I can find less expensive ways to do it. So if that all appeals to you, subscribe. If you want to support me directly, I will always accept a coffee, or let's call it a glass of wine. You'll find that link in the description. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.